War is afoot.
What's up, Doom Nation? Welcome back to another Doomed review, and we are reviewing the season finale of House of Dragons.
Yes, sir. Wow. What an ending.
Yes.
What a season. Crazy. I knew something insane was going to happen in this
Holy
episode.
yeah.
I knew they were going to go high budget. I knew the dragons were going to be involved. That was pretty wild.
I'm a little sad. This is by far the best thing that's on TV. Netflix, Disney, Hulu. There's nothing out right now that can beat this. This was masterfully done.
Yeah, it really was.
Yeah.
And it's going to be 2 years until the next season too, I believe.
Yeah. I wish you didn't tell me that, because there's no bigger turnoff in my life cycle than I could give it a year. I can give it a year. Anything over that, I'm out. That's what screwed me up with
so I agree with
Westworld.
Yeah.
And shit. You know,
I think what happened here, to give you some backstory here real quick before we get into the episode, I think what happened here is Game of Thrones had such a bad ending. They really kind of were just going to see how this went, right? They weren't sure if people were going to respond and if they're going to like it as much. So they didn't just film back to back to back to back. Because they weren't sure if this was going to have the response that it did. Now it did. I would think in future seasons they'll film a season and it'll only be 1 year in between going forward. But because now they kind of waited to see how the first couple episodes went in terms of like the response, it's going to take. They haven't even started yet on the next one, and these things take a long time.
Goddamn.
To film with, as you saw in this finale. Doing that is not easy. They did in this finale.
No.
So.
Well, goddamn, that sucks, but I get it. The only positive is I get to go to bed early on Sundays again now.
Fair enough. Fair enough. So yeah,
but it's gonna be a missed show, man. Oh God, I am in such a show hole. I've finished what I've been watching on Netflix. There's nothing too crazy on Hulu or Disney's really not. It's pretty much on my shit list now. What are we gonna do?
We're gonna have to go into reviewing beers and cigars again, and guns maybe. So. We'll see. So yeah, this episode picks up right where the last one left off. Queen Rhaenys returns to Dragonstone and basically tells Rhaenyra that her crown has been stolen, causes her to go into like a premature labor. Yeah, she was pregnant.
Which I gotta say was interesting, because you kept saying the birthing bed is the women's battlefield. So like she went right into battle. Basically, like she found out this information, went into battle. And I guess you could say lost the battle because they lost the baby. And not a good series for newborn babies. I gotta say, they die pretty much quicker than any of the main characters.
Yeah, hey man, it's an accurate representation of like that time period. It's not easy. Like, childbirth is an insane process. And Rhaenyra has given birth. I think this was her 6th child, so she's been through it. I mean, again, they did these childbirth scenes well, and by well I mean like they were like just like gritting my teeth to watch them go gruesome. Down. Yeah, pretty gruesome. So that's where we start off with Rhaenyra basically finding out, causing her to go into labor, and unfortunately she loses the baby. And then it's a very simple episode, I'll be honest with you.
I think last episode 9 was, I kind of think they have that storyline again going where episode 9 is the climax, and then episode 10 is the repercussions, the fallout of the climax to lead into the mysterious next season, what shall happen.
Yeah, definitely. And I kind of like also just spending time with a certain cast of characters instead of bouncing around sometimes.
Story A, an episode for Story A, and an episode for Story B. Yeah.
So they kind of get into a little bit of X's and O's, and Aegon the Conqueror's table returns, and it is way more badass than it was in Game of Thrones this time. They put those candles underneath, which light all of Westeros
So
up.
cool.
Yeah, that was pretty dope. I kind of want that table now. That's got to be our podcast table in the future, lit up and everything. And they get into X's and O's, and they kind of start teasing where the show is going to go in the future. And they do tease a return to Winterfell in the future. That Lord Criggin Stark, he's he has bent the knee to Rhaenyra in the past. So the Starks bent the knee to Rhaenyra in the past, and you know how the Starks are with their honor. So they'll factor in the future seasons. They tease a lot of the other houses. They show a glimpse of Rook's Rest, to keep an eye out for that in the future.
We got to see Storm's End.
Yeah, Storm's End in all its glory. Finally, that's the first time we've seen the full castle.
That's what I was wondering. And just goddamn, once again, everything is so dark.
I don't know, man. It was dark, but this was well done. It was visible, in my opinion, at least. Yes, it was dark and it was raining. It is Storm's End. That's why it's called Storm's End. It's always like a rainy, stormy place.
Shitty area.
But in terms of Storm's End and it being dark, they mixed in lightning this time, right? So it was able to light the sky a lot, and they didn't make it as dark as previously. So I thought everything was completely visible. I had no qualms with the darkness of any of that. I thought there was a little bit, it was like a lot of like tactical stuff. Even Daemon, I mean, with his brother gone, he's just gone off the deep end, I guess you could say. And he's back into just being, he's toxic at the end of the day. Yeah, he's had so many like
he
heel
has
turns
been since
this
episode
season.
1.
Yeah, he's had a lot of heel turns. Like, we like him, now we don't like him. We like him, now we don't like him. And he's just one of those guys that is just like, you got to do what you got to do. Like, he doesn't mince words or do anything. Like, he's willing to use violence to do what needs to be done. Rhaenyra is definitely different. As we saw, she was kind of doing what Viserys would have done, and peace first, and let's try and work this out.
It's funny, if you noticed, the queen, both queens, Alicent and Rhaenyra, both took the option of, well, hold off. They were both advised right away to war, charge to war, right away we go. And they both held off, which was interesting, but I don't think, that's going to be, lasting too long either.
Yeah.
I think the toxic masculinity will overrule
of Westeros, will bleed through.
Yeah, and bring Westeros to war. So
yeah, definitely. I thought that this is going to be a different war too. As we saw, Daemon right away is talking X's and O's in terms of like, well, we have this many dragons and they have this many dragons.
Which I have to ask, like, they out of the blue, they counted 13 dragons to their 3. Where have these dragons been this entire time? Just chilling?
So some of them live on Dragonstone,
but they're not
all
interrupt again. They're not all claimed.
No,
they're not all. So how do you live in peace with just wild dragons running around?
Yeah, that's a good point. They just kind of keep to themselves and live on Dragonstone and hunt certain areas. They don't really bother the people in Westeros that often. Future seasons might kind of get into that after, especially what happened in the previous episode where Melly's just killed fucking like hundreds of people. People are starting, we'll just put it this way, they're starting to perhaps sour on dragons. And the events to unfold in the next couple of years are going to probably put the nail in the coffin for dragon ridership in Westeros. But there was other dragons. Some of them live on Dragonstone. There were a couple who were just wild and kind of just like roaming free, which will probably get their time in future seasons. So they're around, but yeah, I think there's 13 to 3, I believe.
Yeah.
Well, Daemon goes down 12 to 3 now, right? Daemon does go down into like the depths of Dragonstone, and he tries to court one of the riderless dragons, which I believe is Vermithor. It's one of the other really big dragons, one of the older ones.
Not a clue.
And I thought that was just pretty cool to see how could you like court a dragon to your side. He goes in there kind of like singing a Valerian song. I thought that was pretty interesting. I'm not familiar with what that might be, but it was cool.
It's interesting. It's cool to watch all the fantasy, the CGI, hint, hint, She-Hulk, Disney. But it's hard because I don't know. At least you know of these dragons from reading. One dragon is the same to me, other than the big one compared to the little ones. You know what I'm saying? So it's a little hard for being an outsider watching this for the first time to now have a whole new subset of dragon characters.
Yeah, definitely. They will focus more on them. They did in this episode, and they will in future seasons when the fighting really breaks out. I think it was just in general for the whole season. I think it was smart to not just lean on dragons and mindless stupidity the entire time. They leaned on the characters. That now puts a lot of weight behind the decisions going forward. There was a really cool scene too, where Otto Hightower comes to Dragonstone.
Yep.
And kind of like reflects, kind of was a throwback to the first, I think it was the first episode, maybe, where he came to Dragonstone when Daemon ran away with the dragon egg. It was kind of like that whole like confrontation happening again, and almost exactly the same. Rhaenyra landing behind them, but the first time she was on the side of Otto, landing behind him to back him up. Now she landed behind him. She's obviously not on his side.
Yeah.
And she walks right past him the same way she did both times. So I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
And everything.
Is that the same spot that Jon Snow was able to get on the dragon for the first time?
I don't know about get on the dragon, but it is the same place that when Jon Snow came to Dragonstone for the first time, and he was met by Tyrion, and they were
with
walking
the dragon
along they were walking along the bridge there, and that's the first time Jon ever saw a dragon.
Okay.
Drogon flew over. So it's the same place.
Yeah.
It's a really cool
Which is
spot.
awesome. Those are cool callbacks, I gotta say.
Yeah, that is a real bridge somewhere in the real world. I forget exactly where that they used for that scene. They repurposed it now a couple times. Pretty dope.
We'll have to go do and review the bridge.
Yeah. It is pretty cool. You could look it up on Google. So that was a pretty cool scene. I thought also like the twin brother of the Kingsguard who came and brought her Viserys crown. That was pretty cool. And now we kind of see why in the past episode he just bounced like in the middle of his brother fighting. So the two brothers now are on I forget what their names are, but
I think that's going to play into I think it's going to play into their position in future episodes where they're going to lead little armies against each other and eventually have to face each other. It'll be another storyline of these two brothers taking on each other for viewing their oaths differently.
Right, for honor. I thought it was kind of cool. We saw the Kingsguard oath for once, and it's similar to the oath that the Night's Watch takes, but a little bit different as well, obviously. So I thought that was pretty cool. I don't think we've ever seen that in Game of Thrones before.
I did like when we get to Storm's End and he hears him out and the Baratheon's like, so you came empty-handed? He's like, you can't offer me anything. Like you just here. Like it was a good strategy, but they were just a day late, show up to intimidate with the dragon, remind them who they laid oath to, and we have the dragons, but meanwhile what's his fucking name? One-eyed Magoo. Aemond was there before and beat him to the punch. Yeah.
I think it's interesting too, just in terms of like politics and the real world. Like the Constitution, your vow and oath, like that don't mean anything. The only thing that really matters is who's got the guns at the end of the day, right? And in that scenario, in that moment, happened to be
the dragons
who had the bigger gun, right? And then that scenario was Aemon. Yeah, man. So I mean, let's just get to that because that's obviously the highlight of this episode.
Yeah.
Going to Storm's End, that whole thing, seeing Aemon's been like a belligerent this entire series, pretty much, especially since
he's the villain.
Older.
He's I mean, that's what they painted him as. He's the bad guy now. That's it.
Yeah, we saw him take off his eye patch too. He has a sapphire gem
and a crystal under there.
That's pretty cool.
Is that of any significance or no?
I don't know. Be honest with you, I don't know. I don't remember from the books.
I was wondering. See, the one problem with like this episode, I enjoyed it and I enjoyed all the other episodes, but I feel like this episode was for more like people like you who have read this stuff and have been up on it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, Aemon's blue eye. Let's see.
Google search.
Yeah,
hang
there is something. So he lost that eye, if you remember, right when he fought Lucerys when they were kids. And it says, for season finale, fans are ready to argue. Aemond's not the only one with sapphire eyes. Keep in mind, the White Walkers have sapphire eyes, right? So I thought that could be something there. Yeah, I don't know. Not much in here. It's just speculation. This article I'm reading. It was pretty cool, but man, like that whole scene in Storm's End was dope. At least the Boros Baratheon there, he invoked guess right in a way, which is like what the phrase did not adhere to, right? Which is like, you come under my home as a guest, I can't commit any violence against you. That's like huge in medieval culture and in Game of Thrones. So he did invoke guess right and protect him, but once he left, that's it. Guess right doesn't extend to the skies.
Yeah, the airspace around the kingdom.
Yeah, and dude, let me tell you, bro, that was unbelievably shot. I know you said it was a little dark. It wasn't, in my opinion, honestly, but
the first scene of him where like you knew right away, like, okay, he's gonna get chased down here. Like you knew it was gonna be this aerial assault fight, but when he flew over him, that was a hell of a scene.
And that that was meant to give you the dramatic effect of like size difference between Arrax and Vhagar.
Arrax is still very young. He's like the same age as
dragon.
Yeah.
Right. So that was pretty wild, man. And sometimes I thought even earlier in the episode there was a scene with Meraxes, who's Daemon's dragon. The CGI was a little bit weak when he was kind of like intimidating the Kingsguard. The CGI was like a little bit weak there, but this battle between Arrax and Vhagar, I mean, that's some of the best CGI I've ever seen in anything,
especially when they got above the clouds too. My God, what a shot!
Yeah, even the scenes of them, they're like on a bull, basically like a huge, like when you go to the bar and you ride the bull, they're on huge things like that in the green screen room, and even the rain, the wind, everything was like perfectly choreographed to look as real as possible. I thought, even in terms of like just the way their hair was moving, like it was moving in the same direction they were flying. Like there was a lot of attention to detail that I noticed, and just the battle was dope. Like they were kind of like, going around each other and chasing each other down. And it gives you that feeling of like, how could this little tiny dragon do anything?
I thought he was going to outmaneuver him for a while.
Vhagar, but then you think, right? Yes, there's maneuverability and agileness from being small. Vhagar is like this old, gigantic, lumbering beast.
Lot of meat to turn left and right.
Yep. I thought it was pretty cool too. Like the concept of the dragons get hyped up. Right.
Yeah.
And
they get into their own heads and they get pissed off. And
both Viserys and Aemon were trying to calm them down. And I don't think Aemon wanted to just kill Arrax and Viserys. I think he just was messing with them.
He wanted to hurt him. He wanted to scar him the same way he was.
Definitely.
Which was ridiculous though to do in Storm's End. He's like, oh no. Before you leave, you're going to cut your eye out for me. Yeah. And then we're all cool here.
Yeah, then we're square.
Yeah, no, this isn't happening. Sorry.
It's going to be a no from me, dog.
I don't know what you were fucking thinking here.
Yeah, like I said, dude, he's a belligerent.
Yeah.
It was really cool, the whole fight and everything. I thought it also was kind of a callback to what Rhaenyra said earlier in the episode when she told them to go there as messengers, not as warriors. And they talked about the dragons, and they were like, my father, I've heard all the old stories of old Valyria, and when the dragons went to war, like everything
burnt down.
Right. And you kind of got a glimpse of why that is in this episode, right? Like if dragons start to fight each other, they get crazy. And just whatever. So, this fight goes down and Arrax is the one who kind of attacks first.
Yeah.
Attacks Vhagar with a little blast to the face there. It was pretty wild, dude. I don't know. What else did you think about it?
It was a pretty brutal ending for Lucerys. Just bit him into a few pieces and chunks, but you could tell right away he regretted it.
Well,
because now like the war is like even going to escalate even further.
Yeah, now it's personal.
Yeah, like it might have not been because Queen Rhaenyra was contemplating, my role as the queen is to do what's best for the kingdom. Maybe that is bending the knee to the new king.
Sure.
It might save the most people. There might be peace, blah, 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 blah. But now this happened. That's going right out the window.
Right. I agree with you there. Definitely.
Yeah.
I don't. Yeah. Again, I don't think Aemon intended to kill
Yeah,
Lucerys
I don't
like
think he
that. I
saw the
think
regret right away.
yeah,
He knows he just made this a lot worse.
it was pretty shocking too the way it went down because it just
It wasn't even him. It
it,
was his
it
dragon.
was Vagar who did it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean just ripped Arix and Lucerys into pieces. And they kind of gave you like a sense of hope with Arix like flying above the clouds
Yeah.
like into the sun, and it's like whew, he's getting away, and then just
Yeah, we'll be able to see him coming and fight back.
yeah, it's one of those just dramatic Game of Thrones shocking moments, I thought. So yeah, man, I think this now throws any hope of peace out the window, obviously.
Now there's war, and I think there'll be war with dragons.
Yeah, there's going to be, without a doubt.
Yeah.
They teased a lot of it. So for knowing what happens in the books when they were panning over, just, I won't spoil anything, but when they were panning over Aegon's painted table, they were focusing on areas that gigantic battles are going to occur.
Foreshadowing. Why not?
Yes, they were foreshadowing things to come. So that's the end, man. We're going to go back to Winterfell, and next season you'll see what's his name? Jacaerys is going to go to the River Run and Winterfell, so the Starks will be back. That'll be,
and we're going to
cool.
see isn't the Eyrie with the moon door?
Yes. Yes, the Eyrie.
So we already saw that kingdom before
we
as
saw
well.
back in Game of Thrones. Yeah, so there's going to be a lot of cool shit to come, man. I'm excited. It does suck that it is going to be 2 years until then.
Oh god damn, that sucks, man.
Yeah. Any final thoughts before we give the last episode a rating?
No, I'm pretty much with you. I think peace is out the window. We're going to see a lot of the other kingdoms. I think there's going to be I think since this show was received so well, and that Jon Snow and the Starks were so wildly popular in the Game of Thrones, I think this is going to lead to a very big Stark entrance. And maybe they'll change it up a little bit to throw people like you as well. Maybe not like add or change a character, but like give them a little bit bigger of a presence or a little bit bigger of a story, to make it a more of a grand entrance for them. But I think Total War, and it's going to be interesting because I think at the end of the day, it's going to be more of Daemon versus Hightower going to war instead of Rhaenyra and Alicent going to war. You know what I mean? I think season 2 might be them like trying to stop the war and rekindle their friendship. Because now, if you think of it, now that the king's gone, the two of them always just wanted to be like head in the clouds and we could live in peace. If it wasn't for the men around them, they both believed that once the king died, they'd be able to live in peace side by side. Now, all of a sudden, they have to kill each other, but now there's no men in their life really. So they could choose to go back to that life, but I don't think Daemon and Hightower are going to allow that.
Yeah, we'll see, man. Like you said, it's a case study on toxic masculinity. Definitely, I would say. What do you want to rate it?
I am going to give it I'm going to give it a 7.5. Okay. It was very good, a little dark. I'm still learning the story. So if I knew the story the way you do, I'd probably rate it much higher. So this episode leaves me with more questions than anything else. I gotta wait 2 years now. There's a cliffhanger, which I do enjoy him from time to time, but now we got this cliffhanger for war, for peace, and it's a long 2 years is a long time.
Sure.
Long time to get this answer.
So as having read the books and knowing what's to come, I'm going to give it a 9 because it was like perfectly done. See? I don't exactly remember everything, but as I watch, things come back to me. Yeah. And it was like translated from paper to, show perfectly. I thought there was no problem with the darkness in this one. Finally, they got it right while filming dark scenes, but having enough light. Some of the best CGI I've ever seen in anything.
That was good.
Sequence of Arix and Vagar fighting, and they kind of teased Vagar's importance throughout the entire season. So I thought it was really well done. 9 out of 10. We'll see where it goes from here, man.
Yeah.
It does suck to have to wait 2 years, but hopefully in future seasons, because this George R. R. Martin did say this has to go like 4 seasons for it to be completely flushed out. So hopefully now with the success, I feel like Game of Thrones has solid footing again, Dad. though. Definitely, they've
Oh, yeah,
kind of
people will be waiting for this.
Yeah. Do you think so? Here's a question to wrap it up on. Do you think they've redeemed Game of Thrones with this first season here of
No.
House of the Dragon?
No. One, because that's how bad Game of Thrones ended. Two, in my eyes, this is a new story. So the ending isn't finished yet. They could still fuck this one up too.
Sure.
You know what I mean? It's not out of the realm of possibilities. Is it likely? No. But you know, if we were reviewing the season finale of season 6 of Game of Thrones, would we imagine they were going to end it on such a note either?
Yeah, there's a difference here. There is a difference here that the
Yeah.
story has been written to completion by George.
Yes.
That's all they have to do is follow the blueprint that he laid out here, where he did not finish Game of Thrones.
So we'll see.
So I don't think it redeems Game of Thrones, but I think it brings the mojo back.
The brand,
it brought the brand back and did what it set out to do, which is reestablish that this is a cool universe. It's a show people want to watch. And now they have the mojo back, so they can make future projects.
It's kind of like the Mandalorian for Star Wars. It's really the only like decent thing out there for it.
So don't be surprised now if you see confirmation of other shows, the Jon Snow show, like confirmed 100%, and all these other little projects. Real quick, my last point, I want to compare it to Rings of Power. It's not even a comparison. So please don't even try. If you're a fan of both of these things, don't even try to compare it. This was poetry on television. The Rings of Power was hot garbage that was just awful compared to this. So that's where I'll end it. Thank you for watching our Doomed review. Captain, sign us off.
All right, Doom Nation. I hope you guys enjoyed this review. I hope you guys enjoyed the House of Dragons. I hope you guys aren't as bummed as I am that you got to wait 2 years for the next season. And we will let you guys know what the next review is going to be once we find out. So Doom Nation, as always, make sure you like, share, and subscribe. Adios.